All right, so this video will focus on Chapter 2, Section 2. And I guess before we get started, I want you to pause the video and try to solve 1 through 6 as a little review. All right, so now that you've gone through and solved them, let's go through the answers here. And the thing I want to make sure that you understand or that you remember is that if you're adding two things and they're both negatives or both positives, you're going to simply add the value together and then put the sign on there. So for instance, I owe 54 and I owe 23. Altogether, I owe 77, right? So that's negative 77. On the opposite side of that, if I have, let's see here, a positive and a negative, so like right here, 62 minus or plus negative 29. In this case, what I'd like you to think about before you do anything is put absolute values here and just think which of these numbers would be greater. And we know 62 is greater than 29. So your answer, since 62 is a positive number, means your answer must also be positive. So now we'll actually do the math and we'll do 62 minus 29. We do get the 33, and it's a positive number, which makes sense with what our estimate was from the very beginning. So I really encourage you to kind of estimate before you move forward on these. So how do you know, or how do you use what you know about adding integers to add rational numbers? If we look here, here are the rational numbers that we're talking about. So if I have 2.7 and then I'm adding negative 3.4, first of all, before you move anywhere, will this answer be negative or positive, and how do you know? Hopefully you're thinking that it will be a negative answer because of the fact that if you take the absolute value of these two, 3.4 is larger, and since that's a negative number to start with, your answer will be negative as well. So then we'll go through here and we'll take 3.4 minus 2.7, and you can either count up, meaning you add up and you get 0.7, and all I did there is I went like 2.8, 2.9, 3, 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, 3.4, and that was a total of 7 or 0.7. Or you could take 3.4 minus 2.7, just borrow, and you will have, and of course we're subtracting, and you'll get 0.7 as well. So either way will work. In the book, it does show you how to use a number line, which I really encourage you to do. You start off by going 2.7 over to the right, that's positive. Then you move 3.4 to the left, and we happen to be at negative 0.7. And we can do that for all of these. So I encourage you to do that. But instead of actually solving these, let's just figure out if the number should be positive or negative. So if I look at this one, I have 1.3 plus negative 1.5. And I want you to think, is that going to be a negative or a positive? And the answer is, just looking at it, we know it will be negative, because if I take the absolute value of 1.5 and 1.3, 1.5 is a larger number. So since that is a negative, it will be, an answer will be negative here. So this will be like negative 0.2. This one here, I have 2.1 and positive 0.8. So will this one be negative or positive? Think it through. And yes, it will be a negative answer, because if you take the absolute value of these two numbers, 2.1 is greater than 0.8. So it will be a negative something. And do that for the rest of these. And it says use the number line to figure these out. So in this case, it says negative 1 and 2/5. These are all in 2/5, or fifths, I should say. So I'm going to start off at 0 and go to the left 1 full, and then 1/5, 2/5 is how I get it. And then if I go, it says to go another 4/5 to the left, because I'm subtracting it. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4. I happen to be right here. And if you look here, this would be negative 2 and 1/5. So I'll write that down. So negative 2 and 1/5. And again, all that I'm doing is I'm just using the number line here, and each one of these little tick marks is equal to 1/5. Of course, when you get to 5/5, that is 1 whole. So that's how we're going to be doing all these. You can do it with the thirds as well if you like. So you can use the number line again. So instead of being in fifths, you'll make them in thirds. And we'll go through and do that. You could also use them with decimals. So you can go by tenths. It's really up to you how you do this. So it asks for an addition expression. And I start off at 0. So it starts off at 0 and I'm moving to the right. So that'd be plus, so it'd be 1.5 plus negative 2.3. That's the answer there. So I'm going to rewrite this here so I know what it is. So again, I start off at 1.5 minus or plus negative 2.3. That's what it's asking to do. This one here, it looks like I'm starting off at negative 2, so I'm going to take negative 2 1/10 because it says I start there. And then I go to the right 3 7/10. So I'll say plus 3 7/10. For this one, it says that I start at 0 and I move 1.1 units to the left. So this is going to be a negative, right? So negative 1.1 and then plus, because I'm doing the addition here, it says additive expression, and I'm moving to the left. So I'll say negative 0.7. So that's how you write all these things. Again, I'm putting a plus in between these because it says the addition expression. So it says here, write an addition problem using two rational numbers with different signs whose sum is positive. So that means that the absolute value of the bigger one has to be a positive, right? So I'm going to say two rational numbers. So I'll say 2.8 plus negative 1.3. And this would absolutely work. And the sum here, when I add these together, will be 1.5. And it's a positive answer because if I take the absolute value of these two numbers, the 2.8 is larger than 1.3. Now it says make a different one whose sum is negative, right? So I'm going to do negative 3.2 plus 1.1. So again, if I take the absolute value, the 3.2 is definitely larger than 1.1, so it will be a negative answer. And now I just find the difference between them. So if I take 3.2 minus 1.1, I get 1, I get 2.1. So my answer is negative 2.1 is how I'm doing that. This one, it says to add fractions in simplest form. So with this one, what I'd recommend doing is like you could change, I'm just going to take 3 4/9 and negative 2/3. I'm going to rewrite this. Let's make it so it has the same denominator. That makes it a lot easier. So I'll keep my 3 4/9. But now I'm going to subtract. If I want to change this into ninths, I want ninths here. I have to multiply by 3 on both sides. And I will have 6/9. So I'll say minus 6/9. So 4 minus 6 is hard to do. It's a negative number, right? But you could also borrow from here. And I could turn this into an improper fraction if you like. So I'd take 3 times 9, and that's 27. And the way that I'm really doing that is that 9/9, 9/9, 9/9. So I'll say plus, plus, and then 4/9. This represents this right here. 9/9 is 1 whole, 9/9 is 2, 9/9 is 3, and then I have 4/9 left over. So I can combine all these together, right? And I have 9 plus 9 plus 9 is 27. And I have 28, 29, 30, 31. So I have 31/9. And I'm going to subtract 6/9. And when I do that, I get 25/9. Now, I'm only showing you this because a lot of people learn to do 3 times 9 and then plus 4. And when you do that, you get your 31/9. But a lot of people don't know what they're actually doing. So when I have this 3, that represents 3 fractions of size 9/9. And that's what you do for all of these. So it says here to add rational numbers, use the same rules for signs as you use for integers. So we do the same thing that we did before. We're changing, so instead of being 1/3 plus 1/6, I'm going to change them both into sixths. And I have negative 2/6 plus 1/6, and that would equal negative 1/6 as well. So we're using the same rules. There's nothing new here. If I do this, I want to first of all change this 8/3 into sixths. So I'm going to have negative 16/6 plus 5/6. And so negative 16 plus 5 is negative 11/6. This is how we do this. And then you can change that back into negative 1 5/6. Here's another one where you go through. Again, if you take the absolute value of these numbers, you're going to notice that the 7 is larger than the 4. So your answer will be a positive answer. You find the difference, and we get 3.57. And it's a positive number. This one here, I want to just change this from 1/4 to 2/8. So I have negative 7 plus 2, which would be negative 5/8. And we keep on doing that for these as well. Again, for this one, I would probably have 6 3/3 sections, because that would equal, it's just like the ninths, which will turn into 19/3. So negative 19/3 plus 20/3. So it would be just 1/3 is what this is. And for this one, this is 2/1. So I'll make it 4/2 to make this easier. So here you go. This one here says 2x plus y, and I just have to reevaluate, meaning I'm just going to plug this in. So I'm going to put in 2 times 1/4 plus negative 3/2. So 2 times 1 is 2 over 4 plus negative 3/2. We got to change this to make it make more sense, right? And I'll change the color here. So I'm going to change this thing here. So it's in fourths. So I have to multiply this by 2 and multiply this by 2. And this was a negative, right? So negative 6/4. So now I have 2/4 minus 6/4. And this here equals negative 4/4, or negative 1. So there we go. This one here just asks, table shows the annual profits. Try solving this one for yourself. If you look at this, the most confusing part of this, what I think, is I was looking for like a rate or something like that. All it's looking for is you have profits and losses. So let's add them up. So negative 1.7, negative 4.75, plus 1.7, plus 85 hundredths, plus 3.6. And then we're going to divide that by the amount of years that we have here over a 5-year period. And you'll figure out once you do that if you have a loss or a gain. And the final one here is evaluate this expression where you have negative 5/2. Let me just write this one down here. So I'm going to say negative 5/2 plus 4 times 1/2. And when you do that, you're going to have negative 5/2 plus 4/2, which will equal negative 1/2, right? When I add these together, because if I take the absolute value of this, 5 is greater than 4, and it's a negative. So we'll go through here. So I have negative 1/2. You could then solve these. Sorry, I skipped ahead. But that is chapter 2.2.